I'd like to call this meeting to order with pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
President Brandon.
Here.
Adam Vick.
Here.
Director Clayton.
Here.
Director Adams.
Here.
Director Brown.
Here. Thank you. Moving on to item number 1, minutes of the regular meeting held September 12th, 2024.
I've read through the like motion to approve the written bill.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item number 2, committee reports.
There was one meeting of your executive committee for agenda setting on September 9th.
Any questions before moving on? Moving on to item number 3, general manager's report.
So, I don't know if you're aware, we had Airfest this past weekend. Just some other background, went well, as far as I'm concerned, from operationally, it was great. I think our staff did an excellent job. You know, manicuring the airport the best they can.
Did you get a number on how many people showed up?
Do you know, Karen, do you have a rough guess? Or?
I think it's about the same as last year. They're still pulling all that together. But, revenues were up about 15% off their initial.
Positive. I assisted on the 17th. I assisted for your board president with a tour of the airport for 2 candidates for city council. Not incumbents, but opponents. On the 30th, the A Street and Fairway rezoning went before to a planning study of for the city planning commission. Yeah, and it will be on the planning commission's October 17th, Wednesday, October 17th planning commission meeting. So that's what we'll hear their recommendation as far as advancing to the city council. At that same meeting, they also reviewed the Plymouth Fame project. And I don't know, I need to verify if that's also on the 16th. I don't, I'll double check. So that might also be on the 16th. It would be meeting, the other one meeting. We have enough to touch base on our steps proceeding with the settlement agreement. We're working on the formation of a conservation easement, which requires that we run a third party, full third party. So we met with the Santa Barbara Land Trust a few weeks ago. They responded as a follow-up to that meeting with what they call a letter of agreement draft. So essentially the outline of what their scope of work is and some budget estimates. We're going to have to pay them further services. But overall, I think everyone on staff agrees it's the right direction to move. And we're coordinating a site visit. We'll hope the week after next. And I'd request that this involves so many different components of what we do that it's hard to recommend exactly what committee should participate. But my recommendation, probably the best one, would be the Urban Planning and Capital Improvement Committee, because that's what we're leading to. We're going to go through a planning session on how to manage the conservation easement, and then develop some capital improvements or site improvements that I think best fit that committee. And the committee members are President Marino and Director Brown. So if you're willing, I'll let you know. Coordinate my time.
Sounds like a plan.
Just a heads up, you may all recall the Richards Branch property that's under the approach to the runway over at intersection of Highway 135 and Union Valley. That will be in front of the Planning Commission on October 2nd, October 2nd at 5:30. And they'll be discussing annexation, general plan amendments, rezoning, things of that nature, just so if that's something you're interested in. I think, I've looked at it, and you look at the, airport land use commission's airport land use plan, and you look at what I've seen that's being proposed, and you can see it's blatantly obvious that someone read that plan, with all the zoning, like, it's right in all the right, areas, so I don't have so much concern. But just thought I'd share, that's all I have.
And then that's for our business park out,
Excuse me?
is that to the business park?
No, that is for, this is a private development, so it'd be kitty corner to the G3 property. So, I mean, southeast and northeast corners of Highway 135 and Union Valley Parkway, so it's the other side of the freeway at Union Valley, but on straddles both sides of Union Valley. So that's all I have.
Any questions before moving on? Moving on to item number 4, Manager of Finance and Administration Report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I provided the demand register for your review and approval.
I read through it, looked at the numbers. Obviously, we still have some carryovers from things, but I make it my motion that they approved.
We have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else?
The other reports are informational, but I do want to point out that, things with the Apple. We had fuel float fees in excess of, nearly $50,000 for the first 2 months of the year. That had to do with the military operations at the airport. It's very unusual, so I thought I'd point that out to you. And also, if you're looking at the ag's below budget right now because we're at the lower rate. The new rate started in September, so that doesn't show up here yet. So I can mention.
Any questions before moving on?
Say it one more time about the average, what about the?
Very low budget right now because we're at for August and July and August, they were at the lower rate. The rate is effective September.
The new rate started September 1st. Nebraska?
Yeah.
So it's for this coming year, he's paying for the cheap price.
His rent increase was effective September, so for the first 2 months of this fiscal year, it was at the lower rate.
Right. I thought it was gonna be July 1.
No,
The term of the original lease started on September 1st, and so it just makes sense to have it start in the first week. All right, so that's why I started on 9/1.
Any further questions?
So the step up occurred September 1st, that's correct, the change in that.
Moving on to item number 5, public session. Statements from the floor will be heard during public session. Requests to speak forms are provided for those wishing to address the board. After completing the form, please give it to the clerk. Requests requiring board action will be referred to staff and brought on the next appropriate agenda. Members of the public are cordially invited to speak on agenda items as they occur. Staff reports covering agenda items are available for review in the offices of the general manager on the Tuesday prior to each meeting. The board will establish a time limit for receipt of testimony, in this case 3 minutes. The board reserves the right to establish further time limits for receipt of testimony. With that being said, I have something for agenda item number 6. Would you like to wait for agenda item number 6, Rich? Or sure, whatever. Sure. Okay. So we'll go ahead and that's all I have. Anyone else? No. So moving on to item number 6, presentation by Esmeralda Mendoza of the Santa Maria Museum of Life.
great, Ron. So I'm Esmeralda Mendoza, the current CEO of the Santa Maria Museum of Life. Some of you remember me from the last time I was here in 2019. So it's been a few years. So since then, I think most of you have been through the museum and you've been able to experience the changes firsthand, which we're very proud of, and a lot of folks here today are responsible for those changes. So the main reason they're here today is because I think we had a misunderstanding the last time we chatted. And we were under the impression that the grants that the airport had issued to us extended a little bit longer than we recently found out it actually extended. So there is the issue of maybe some cash rents due that we would like to, in short, ask for a waiver or forgiveness to be treated as a grant, as we had initially understood that it was. There we go. So over the past 5 years, 4.5 years, the museum has really tried to focus on our mission. I know that with past leadership, there was a lot of exciting things that they did that we felt under our new leadership were better served by maybe other organizations, and that we could do what we do best, and that's tell local aviation history to the next generation. So that's our focus. That's what we do on a weekly basis. And we are proud to say that we now do that with hundreds of participants. Since 2019, we worked hard to fundraise and reinvest the majority of our grants back into the facility itself. Some of the highlights are in 2020, we had a complete redesign. For those of you who were there before 2019, you might remember areas like the library. Those resources were donated to other organizations in the community where they're better served. And we were able to create a much more functional space. In 2021, we did our biggest program yet, and we replaced the roof of the building, which was in excess of $70,000 to get that facility back up and running. In 2022, we invested in technology. The museum, up until then, did not have dedicated computers. So that was something that we did. And we also started an audio tour, which is available online and it's visited worldwide from guests worldwide. In 2024, we just recently completed a renovation painting project. And that also was a big passion project of mine. I wanted the building to look its best, and it really is now. So that was in excess of $20,000. And one of the biggest highlights of the recent repairs is our A4 Skyhawk, which has been actually done 100% by our volunteers. Omar, who is back here, has taken the lead on that project and really made that aircraft look its best. So I just wanted to share some kind of the successes of what we've done since I took over leadership a few years back. So since 2019, we've continued to improve our finances. I know when I spoke to you last, the museum was in a really tough financial position. Thankfully, since then, we've been able to secure some solid funding, and we do things like rent the museum for special events, which actually helps us bring a lot of our operational costs, or it covers most of our operational costs. So on a yearly basis, we're operating it right at about $33,500. So our future, I know, is a big question with Plains of Fame coming, but we strongly believe at the Museum of Light that there is enough interest in this community for both of us to serve our missions to the very best. And we are proud to say that we have been collaborating with them. We don't know what that end result will be quite yet. But we, being passionate for aviation, are very excited to see them come and to do what they do best. So in essence, the presentation today was to kind of share our successes and hopefully entice you to work with us in extending our lease and to handle that back rent issue.
A question you've got on there, and by the way, in full disclosure, I've been a happy member of the museum for probably 20 years. I don't think my current dues are there, so maybe you'll vote on that, but the, you have some pilot training on your slide. How are you coordinating for pilot training with who with?
So we work with the FAST team and we're happy to host them. Every meeting that they've hosted so far has been very well attended. I think the last one we had maybe in excess of 50 to 60 participants.
Okay.
And we intend to continue to develop those types of relationships. Our newest partnership is with Young Eagles. And so we're formalizing that relationship, but we're very happy to announce that they are going to be collaborating with us and having the Museum of Life be kind of their local base. Any other questions I can answer?
No, I think that's been a magic thing. You, Warehouse got started, and Dick Hume's wife and all that kind of stuff, and then it was moved by Walt Disney, left here at Walt Disney, the building moved and all those things. Dick worked with it for a long time, great bright like you're doing. And I'll make a motion to approve the request, but I have to be cautious in that I don't know if I'm still listed as a current paid member right now. If I am, I can't do that because of the conflict of interest. If I'm not a current paid member, I'll make a motion to approve it.
So we're not making a motion or any resolutions or authorizations today, this is just a presentation.
Okay, good.
We will be, let's go ahead and get the real estate committee.
Okay.
Meet with Esmeralda and her team to discuss further on this. Any further questions before I open it up to public session?
Thank you.
Rich?
Probably here.
Thank you, Esmeralda.
Okay. Most of you know me, I'm Rich Jensen, I'm a FAST team rep here on the airport. I've been for well over 20 years. I'm also a pilot and a hangar tenant. I'd like to just reiterate what Esmeralda said. As the safety rep here, I'm mandated by the feds to have periodic meetings, and I've been doing this along with Patty Lynn for decades. And the museum has never once charged us for their facilities. They've been gracious, mostly gracious. Particularly in the last 5 years, with the new museum leadership, they've done everything they could to help me out. Because I have no budget for this. The feds say that you're supposed to do this, but they don't say how I'm supposed to do it. So, more often than not in the past, the featured speaker has been me because I don't cost anything. So I would just like to reiterate that the museum is, I feel it's a valuable local asset. With the display days that they're doing now, it gives local pilots an opportunity to bring their airplanes out and park them by the museum, and it gives the museum attendees an opportunity to come out and see the airplanes and kind of get an idea of what goes on out there. So I feel it's a very valuable asset, resource for the community, and deserving of at least the same consideration as other nonprofits.
Looks like we got another request to speak form. Okay. Amber?
Good evening, everyone. I don't think any of you know me, but I am now the board secretary for the Santa Maria Museum of Life. And as your general manager mentioned, we had an air show this past weekend, and I just wanted to share a little bit of what went on in our booth to sort of support all the things that we've been trying to do and things you're hearing from others today. the head of the Paso Robles Pilots Association came down to ask us about our antique aircraft exhibition days. They are looking, their pilots are looking for somewhere else to show their planes. They're very interested in doing that with us. We've also had people from around the world, literally people from France and Germany, very interested in seeing the museum. We weren't able to keep it open at the same time that we staffed the booth, but perhaps next year we will. We had people coming in from Apple Valley who are only here for 3 days maybe, who really wanted to see it as well. So we just had so much enthusiasm and support and interest in what we were doing. And as a new member of this group, it just was amazing for me. I had the best time. I was exhausted at the end of the day. And I come from the history background, not the aviation, and it was still amazing. And so I just wanted to throw that out there for you guys. We are working with some, in addition to Young Eagles, we're trying to get the International Plastic Modeler Society to come and do a kids' day. They do a make and take program where they get the models donated by some manufacturer, and then they have a place, at whatever place they're going to be. So hopefully our museum, where the kids come, they can paint, they can glue, they can take it home with them. So we're trying to find other ways to also engage our youth at our museum. So I just want to share that with you guys since we just had that air show. Thanks.
Thank you, I really appreciate it.
Mr. President, may I just add a clarification just for the directors? The support of the Museum of Flight just through a regular membership would not disqualify you or constitute a conflict of interest. That alone would not constitute a conflict of interest from your participation in discussions with the Museum of Flight or voting eventually on any kind of matters that come before you. So I just wanted to
I'll
have that.
remove my dues.
Thank you, Damian. So I'll reiterate, we'll have a committee meeting, we'll discuss further. Moving on to item number 7, discussion and authorization for the president and secretary to execute a stopping certificate, reverter agreement, and other documents related to the district's ground lease for the property located at 3455 Skyway Drive, aka Radisson.
Sure. So thanks, Mr. President. Directors, I believe we may have a representative from this project in today, if not. I'll just, I'll go ahead and briefly present. So this is just an estoppel certificate and a reverter agreement for the ground lease for the property that the Radisson Hotel is located on. This is really the result of some refinancing that they're doing for that building, the improvements located on the land. So the airport has provided a ground lease to the tenants there. The building itself, the improvements were unsurprisingly financed through various loans, and those loans are being refinanced. And so what it requires are 2 documents. The first one is an estoppel certificate, which just consents to the assignment of the sort of encumbrance of the leasehold estate. So again, the lease is encumbered by the financing here. And various other just acknowledgements that the airport, as the landlord for the ground lease, understands what's going on. And then the second document is a very strange, this is the product of the unique history of the airport, so it's always sort of interesting to see this. It's a reverter agreement because if the airport district dissolves, the land reverts back to the city or the county. And so what this is saying, and the city has tentatively agreed as to form, I think it's going before the county as well. What it's saying is that if the district resolves, because all of these documents are financing, it's what if, what if, what if, what if. It just says that the city and county also, if it reverts back to them, also agree to this encumbrance. So that concludes my presentation. If there is a representative from the project here, they can elaborate or make a presentation. If not, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question. When the lease was transferred from the old owner group to the new owner group, there were some conditions that would be completed over the next several years. And those conditions we've not had a report on, so I know I'm worried about, or maybe explain better, paragraph 2.2, which in essence says they've done all the things they promised to do. So what do I read?
Thank you, Director Basket. So not having been here for that part of the negotiations with the district. I'm not familiar with the specific improvements that were promised or what has been done, what hasn't. If you have any questions, or if you have concerns, I thought again that someone from the project would be here to answer that question. The board can always have a discussion and then table the final approval if you have a concern sufficient to.
That's my only concern about doing what he's requested, but that one could be, in my view, a potential problem for getting by and what was promised but not done.
If I could just add, I think maybe what we is, and I don't know if it needs to hold this up, just in general, be nice to have someone from the hotel come and make a presentation of where they're at, because they're in the process of rebranding. I know they've submitted some plans to the city that reflect the new branding. Be nice for you all to know about that, so I'll reach out to you if you like and set that up.
Yeah, and Director Basket, actually, what, one thing that I would suggest, given the concern, the question that you raised, is to make this authorization, if you decide to move forward with it, conditioned on just final review by legal counsel, and I will ask them about that specific question. And then Martin will set up a meeting for the hotel to come and present to your board.
So we'll continue having a discussion currently. With that being said, do we want to table this authorization?
You're saying that we can approve with the idea that you're gonna get that straight.
That's correct, on that specific question.
I'm okay with that.
And if there are, if it seems like the improvements that were promised have not ultimately been delivered, or that your board might have questions,
Then they can
I will bring
satisfy,
it back.
they can satisfy it some of the way. I'll
I'll
make a motion to accept,
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second.
based on what he said.
Okay, we have a motion based.
Discuss this and table this and.
I think there's a time thing going for these things too. right?
Yes, that's correct.
Because I think, I don't wanna mess them up, because I think they have legitimate concern. But we shouldn't hold them up because of this, because I think it's probably an oversight on their thing. I think it just needs to be.
Just want to get you an answer, and then, again, not to set aside Martin's concern about just additional updates from the hotel.
Yeah.
That
So
was-
we have a motion to authorize with the stipulation that you will get clarification on that item. Do I have a second?
Yes.
So we have a second. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to, well, that's it. Let's go ahead and go straight to closed session. Thank you everyone for being here. We will be right back. We exit closed session with no reportable actions. So moving on to item number 9, director's comments. Who wants to go first?
Okay.
Hope everybody got out to the air show this weekend. It was very, very enjoyable. That's all I got.
Last week it was brought up, at the podium about rent raising. Got me thinking a little bit. My intent when the rents were raised for the hangar was not a start of a trend, but rather to bring them back up to the level, the low level where they should be. I personally have no intention on voting another rent raise other than CPI for the next 6 years. So I just want to say that publicly, that if people are worried out there with the hangars about us raising rents like that ongoing,
Yeah,
it's not going to happen for me.
you're 1 of 5.
Pardon me?
You're 1 of 5.
Well,
Okay, you know.
that's all I have.
Personally, I don't see raising the rents either, because the fact is that we just raised them a lot to get back to an even ground, so I can see going along for a while, and I know they had concerns about that. So I'm 2 of 5, and going back to the water board, just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. They have bad water over there, poor water board over there. 42 years they can't get their act together, can't do it. And now they're coming down and dumping their dirty water on us. I'm gonna say no to that, and we're gonna be fighting that, and that's exactly where we're going with it. And shame on them for doing that. But what poor form of the water board to step up and step into a pile, because that's what they've done. and all they're doing is just smelling at this point, and they're trying to stink up the airport, and we'll have nothing to do with that. No other comment.
Nice air show, well done. And hopefully you see more hangar-ins. I disagree, and obviously the board is a little differently. I believe the rent should be lowered back to just simply CPI. I have heard the accurate stories that now renters who are here are now starting to move out, apply for other places. And I believe we've hurt ourselves. I believe we damaged this airport for 50% raise. So that's my comment on that. Also, security. We've had some security. We've had people go out here in the parking lot, break into vehicles, drill holes in gas tanks, steal fuel. We've had, about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, somebody get over the fence, get in an owner-built hangar, break the lock, drive out a vehicle in there, people are safe, and drive out the gates that they're not need to open. So I think we need to continue to improve our security, and know where we we are, what we need to do to keep our tenants, our citizens safe, and their equipment and their aircraft safe, and keep our parking lot safe. That's into my comments for the night.
The Wednesday prior to Airfest, a program called Skyward Bound was at the Radisson. We had just under 300 kids, 300 high school kids come in and learn about STEM, learn about a couple of different nonprofits like Project Recover. They got to go out and hang out and talk to the pilots and touch the A-10 and all that cool stuff. So it was really cool to see the turnout. It was, like I said, close to 300. So looking forward to that program growing and more programs like that springing up in the future. Since we're talking about hangar rates and stuff like that, there will be something in the agenda coming up later down the line, something positive, after meeting with the general aviation committee, which we have something already on calendar for that. Important dates, again, like I said, last board meeting, the next board meeting on the 10th it's canceled. We will be having the board meeting after that. And I think that's it. That being said, do we have a motion to second? Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.